Friends, this week's portion, the portion of Balak, and we're talking about the 40th gift, and the 40th gift is about humor. There's no doubt one of the biggest comedians in our generation was Robin Williams. Not only that he was a stand-up comedian, played in various movies, on the big screen, on the small screen, in plays, but he, besides being a comedian genius, he was also a comic philosopher. In one of the interviews that they interviewed him on television, they asked him, what is the role of comedy? And he said, to shed light on reality from different angles. Because any comedian, any stand-up comedian knows that in order to produce good comedy, there has to be an element of surprise. You thought about reality one thing, and then the comic comes and sheds a light from a totally different perspective on the issue, and that's what makes people burst out laughing. And this understanding and theory about what makes comedy, what makes humor, is a very deep understanding, because Judaism has a very, very challenging time with humor. On one hand, it says in the book of Psalms, David the king says, you shall not sit in the place of, we should call them leitzim, jokers, or people that are making fun. And the reason being is because people that are very cynical, that are jokers, that make fun of everything, are causing an individual not to accept criticism. If he has an outlook on life that everything is a joke, then when they try to criticize him or improve his life or give him a little bit of a path towards redemption, redeeming himself, he belittles it and he takes it with a funny stroke. He takes it as a joke, and therefore you should not be around those individuals that are sitting as jokers, as funny people around the table, because you will not be able to advance your qualities and to advance your, as we say, attributes or midot in Hebrew. That's on one hand. But on the other hand, we see in Judaism a very famous story in the tractate of Ta'anit, in the Babylonian Talmud. Rabbi Broka, who was a great sage, so great that he used to get a vision every day. He used to see Elijah the prophet present in his life every single day. And as he's walking in the market one day, he sees Elijah and he says, who amongst us here in the market has a share in the world to come? Looking at himself, I see Elijah every day, for sure I have a part in the world to come. But Elijah looked to the side and says, oh, entering the market now are two individuals that have a share in the world to come. Running to them, Rabbi Broka stops the two individuals and says to them, what is your occupation? What have you done to deserve a share in the world to come? And they say, we are comedians. We see people that are sad and we make them happy, we make them laugh. So we see that Judaism, with that story, these two comedians have a share in the world to come. Obviously, Judaism does not frown upon comedy, humor, joking. But on the other hand, David the king said, do not dwell in the presence of people that are making fun, in the presence of jokers. So what is it going to be in terms of Judaism? Is it a blessed virtue or not? We can understand, according to the opening that we just opened, what is the role of humor. The role of humor is to shed a light or to expose another angle towards reality, something that you did not think about. And these individuals, it says about them that they had a share in the world to come. But some sages say something much deeper. They were planted in the world to come already. People that are very happy in their nature and that have a very different outlook on life, look at life differently. They're already in the world to come. They come to us earthlings here that are very depressed, that are very sad, and are trying to take us out of our depression, out of our sadness, by taking the same routine, the same reality that we have every single day, and say, hey, don't take yourself too seriously. Here's another angle at looking at things. Start thinking out of the box. It shouldn't be looked at in this way. Look at it a different way. And that's where the element of surprise, as opposed to the way you were thinking your whole life, comes to be. and you burst out laughing. You're not happy or laughing because something transcendental happened to you, something from the outside. You're happy and you're laughing because something from the inside, a change of perception happened to you. And this was the job of a comedian. And Judaism does not frown upon that. It frowns upon people that exercise joking and making fun in order for them not to accept criticism. But to show a different perception on life, Judaism heightens that, embraces humor. We're going to see this in 3 different examples. In this week's portion, and that's why I chose this great gift of humor in this week's portion, there's a story. Balak, the king of Moab, is going to the elders of Midian and say, I don't like the Jewish people. I want to curse them, but I need to hire an individual that knows how to curse people, that knows how to use black magic, that knows how to use prophecy, and the word of his mouth will penetrate the hearts of the Israelites and maybe curse them and kill them. He finds Bilam. Bilam is a very evil individual, as the Torah states, but also he's one of the greatest prophets. He's equal to Moses in his powers of prophecy and sorcery. Not that Moses was a sorcerer, but the Torah calls him a kosem, a sorcerer, to tell us that he used his powers in an evil way. But he was very powerful. And after negotiation and back and forth in the beginning of this week's portion, Bilam agrees and he goes with the king Balak to curse the Jewish people. On the way, he's riding his donkey. And as he's riding his donkey, the donkey halts, stops. He sees something. And Bilam hits him. He says, go, I have a mission. They paid me. He hits him, he stops, he hits him, he stops. The donkey squeezes his leg to the wall. He hits him again, the 3rd time. All of a sudden, God opens Bilam, the great sorcerer, the great prophet's eyes, and he sees that there's an angel with a sword standing in front of the donkey. In a great comic moment, we understand something very profound. The donkey saw what the great sorcerer, what the great prophet did not see. Hence, an angel of God. How bizarre is that? The Torah takes us, the scroll takes us, the 5 books of Moses, and tells us as follows. I'm taking this great prophet and making him this small. He is smaller. He is less powerful. He is less visionary than his own donkey. Why is the Torah uses this sense of humor, this comedy, this comic moment to belittle the great sorcerer? There is a profound statement here. And that is that the donkey opens his mouth and starts talking, just like the donkey in Shrek, whoever saw the movie. Why is he talking? To show you that it's not humans, they not only have the power of speech, they have the power of speech to do good. If you use the power of speech to do evil, then you're no greater than your own donkey. He can talk too. Hence, he's talking, and you're talking. But he's saying something smart, this donkey. And you are about to curse the people of Israel. So in one moment, the Torah flips it around and shows you something great. It's not about the power of speech. It's about the power of speech to do good. And in one moment when you don't expect it, the element of surprise creeps up, and you find yourself with this comic moment in this week's parsha to illustrate the point that we just illustrated. That's number 1. In the Talmud, there's also a case where comedy is used. When the sages used to get tired from learning and learning and learning, they used to exercise a stand-up routine. They used to get up, tell jokes, in order to revitalize themselves and carry on learning. And the Torah says, it says specifically, do not dwell amongst a quorum of jokers. Why are you telling jokes? Be serious about your learning. But here we understand that when the sages are delving and learning a very difficult type of segment in the oral tradition, they're stuck in terms of their way of thinking. In order to free their mind, in order to think of another route, they need humor, because humor makes you think out of the box. And that's why in the Talmud, every rabbi that started a lesson started it with a joke. Every sermon in every shul, usually the rabbi starts with a joke, because he wants the people to open their mind. He wants the people to look at things from a different angle. So that's the second point. Scientists, not connected to Judaism, also exercise that routine or that method. We know of a cat, a very famous cat called Schrödinger's cat. We're not able to give the whole theory today, but those who understand a little bit about quantum mechanics know that there's a parable, a theory that Schrödinger brought forward. He brought it to the absurd of a cat that exists in the lab. And when you close the lab is shut. According to quantum physics, in a certain constellation, we don't have time to explain it now, but in a certain constellation, this cat is live and dead at the same time. Only when you open the lab's door will you really know if the cat is alive or dead. It's called superposition, and it's a possibility that the cat is alive and dead at the same time. Why did he use that extreme and absurd measure? To wake up people to his theory of superposition so they can react, to make them think out of the box. Even Einstein commented on that theory and said as follows. He said, do you think that if a person does not look at the moon will disappear? He used that to show the absurdity, but people take it seriously. Same thing with the famous philosophical question, if a tree falls down in the forest and no one is there to hear the fall, is the tree going to make a sound? All these examples from the scientific community, and we won't give all of them, but there's a lot of them that they use comedy and humor to illustrate a point, to open a person's mind. So what we've learned until now is this week's portion gives us the ultimate example of element of surprise, looking and thinking out of the box, and shedding a light from a different perspective on reality. And therefore, according to Judaism, a person cannot tolerate humor. His knowledge is diminished. The greatest Kabbalists used humor as a source. Rav Himnuna used to say words of foolishness or comedy before he started to learn, in order to open up the students' minds, in order to have a backdrop to some more serious teachings that he taught. So to summarize, humor, foolishness, sometimes shed a different light on reality, and it penetrates and it testifies to the absurdity of the world. And from within that absurdity and from within that humor, a person can come back and get a different perspective on the way that he handles himself in this world. It's important not to go with a slippery slope towards being a joker and belittling people, because it's a defense mechanism against improving yourself. But on the other hand, it's very important for us not to take ourselves so seriously.